If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
But I want to wrap the show here talking about some of these storylines that happen outside of the Knicks purview, and some of them I think are related. So you had upsets and injuries that were the key storylines for the first weekend of the NBA playoffs. The Lakers and Clippers and the Heat joined the Knicks as lower seeds to take game one of their respective playoff series now. I think for two of those teams, there was a big injury reason as to why they helped get these W's. So in game one, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he goes out with a back contusion in the first half. He took a hard fall on the charge, and there's a whole conversation now about whether or not, charges need to be outlawed in the NBA, which seems a little extreme to me. But Giannis goes out of game one. He tries to come back. He can't go. Heat get that win. Meanwhile, in that same series, and in a game, Tyler Hero dives for a loose ball, breaks two fingers in his right hand, and now he is done for the series. He's going to be out for the 6 weeks. I thought it was quite ironic that, we know Tyler Hero is a shooter. He likes to get it up, and the guy broke two fingers, and first time he got the ball, he was still jacking it up. He was in excruciating pain trying to shoot a three with broken fingers, but that just shows you his mentality. He's a shoot first and a absolute, he's absolute assassin when it comes to offense. So regardless of broken hand, broken finger, he's going to get his shots up. So unfortunately, he got hurt in that series, so he's going to be out for the 6 weeks. So Giannis goes out in game one, back contusion. Hero breaks two fingers on his right hand. He's done for the series. Won't be back at least for a month. So who knows when we'll see him. Meanwhile, in the Grizzlies loss to the Lakers, Ja Morant injures his right hand, taking a fall, driving to the basket. X-rays were negative on that hand, but he was talking about how he really could not use it, could not move it, and was very pessimistic about kind of where he was in terms of his health moving forward in this series. So when we talk about the most significant injury of all these three, the Giannis one is very, very interesting because that is a series that I gave the Miami Heat 0% chance to win. I thought that would be either a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. I thought that the Heat had been kind of playing with their food for way too long in the season, and then they were trying to kind of like ramp it up when it was far too late. We saw how they looked coming down the stretch. We saw how they looked in the first playing game when they got dominated by the Hawks. And we saw how they looked for most of that game that they played against the Bulls, where they kind of need a fourth quarter comeback to get their way into the playoffs at home. So credit to them. They definitely came out with the right energy and the right mentality to start game one. But I still thought that they weren't going to win that game in game one if Giannis plays the entire way and isn't healthy. Giannis is a really tough gun. Like, he's not somebody who's going to not go out there if he can't go. So the fact that he couldn't come back in that game was, I think, a really bad sign for the Bucks. And if there's no Giannis in the series, it's to me open season in terms of who can win that series. Like, this isn't a series where I feel like the Heat are going to be so outmanned, even with Tyler Hero being out of this series in a series against the Bucks. I mean, Giannis is the best player in the NBA. You had a lot of the players who suffered injuries or teams that suffered injuries saying, "Hey, man, it's just next man up." You can't next man up Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's certain guys that you can't say that for. And losing the guy who I think is the best player in the NBA is a crucial loss. And I think it's significant, not just for the rest of these playoffs potentially, if he can't go or if he's at 50% or 60% trying to play through that back injury. It's significant for the Knicks because Knicks did win game one. You don't want to look too far ahead because you're trying to just make sure you take care of Cleveland. But I got to be honest, like, if the Knicks get past Cleveland, and you're talking about playing the Bucks with either gimpy or not available Giannis Antetokounmpo, or you're talking about playing against the Miami Heat without Tyler Hero, I think Knicks wash both of those teams. I think Knicks will come in as heavy favorites. Now, of course, the Knicks guys stay healthy, and we got to hope that they don't face a war of attrition in these next few games. But if you're talking about the Knicks playing against the Heat and the Bucks compromise in that major way, the Knicks got a pathway to definitely the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think I would argue they have a pathway to the NBA Finals. I think I've said from March, maybe late February, definitely I think around March, I think that they match up really well with Boston. I think they match up pretty well with Philly. It's not the easier matchup of the two, I think, but I think they match up pretty well. They've played both those teams well throughout the regular season. I would not say Knicks are favored, but if they get the Bucks without Giannis or the Heat without Hero, the Knicks have a chance to go to the NBA Finals. That is a reality coming into these playoffs. So, of course, it's injuries. You never want to wish injuries. I want these guys all to be 100%, but it's just the reality of the situation. If that is what we're dealing with Giannis having to maybe miss games or not be 100%, or Hero is definitely going to be out, then things change in terms of the Knicks ceiling for this season. And for Knicks fans, I know that's going to be really exciting. I think when it comes to the Ja and the Grizzlies injury, I told Tommy on this show, and maybe I got to eat a lot of crow after the Lakers had no chance in this series. I thought people saying that the Lakers were a title contender, were living in a fantasy world. Maybe it was me who was living in a fantasy world. I don't know, because I thought that they would have much more problems with the Grizzlies and their athleticism in game one. That was not the case. The Grizzlies had a tough time guarding in a way that surprised me. The Grizzlies are usually a really good defensive team, but Austin Reeves was doing work. Rui Hachimura was doing work. It wasn't even LeBron and AD killing them in this series. So if those guys are going to be able to be comfortable in this series, Grizzlies could be in a lot of trouble. So not having Ja Morant potentially for the rest of the series, I know they've been comfortable winning without him, but it's a lot different when you talk about not having Ja Morant while also not having Steven Adams, not having Brandon Clark. Like at a certain point, you just can't survive all these injuries. So I have major concerns for the Memphis Grizzlies moving forward. But I want to say just my last few biggest takeaways from the first weekend of the playoffs, outside of the Knicks and outside of the injuries. Number one, I think Denver made a real statement on Sunday night against Minnesota. It's not that Minnesota was a team I thought really could give them too many problems, but I think the great sign from Denver was to see how Jamal Murray and Michael Porter played, especially Jamal Murray. Because to me, Jamal Murray may be the biggest X factor in the entire Western Conference playoffs, because not a lot of people were respecting the Denver Nuggets as a 1 seed. I think a lot of that is because they did not finish the season all that well, and they've had some postseason struggles. But what's interesting to me is how the Nuggets have kind of turned into this team that nobody believes in the playoffs, even though Jokic and Murray and this nucleus made their name in the playoffs. Like their big run, and these guys kind of been coming into the mainstream for most of the basketball world, was in the bubble. And it was during that great playoff run. They were down 3-1 to the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell at that time, who was having these monster games, and they came back and won that series. They were then down 3-1 to the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that a lot of people thought was going to win the NBA championship in the bubble. And they came back from 3 straight double-digit deficits to win that series. And they competed against Lakers. They didn't win. I think they only won 1 game. They might have lost in 5, but they competed tough against the Lakers. And he said, wow, this young team showed up and they were ready to play in the playoffs. They weren't afraid of the moment. And then, the next year they lose to the Suns, and the Suns in 4 guy, becomes a viral meme. And then, last year you don't have Murray, you don't have Michael Porter, and you get stomped out by the Warriors who win the championship. Now all of a sudden it's Nuggets aren't a real playoff contender. Seems a little harsh to me, but what you saw from Jamal Murray, and if you remember how he played in the bubble, he was a superstar. And he looked a little bit like that in that game 1 against Minnesota. If the Nuggets are going to get bubble Jamal Murray in this playoffs, Nuggets are going to the finals. That's clear. I didn't pick them because I didn't think that we'd get Murray playing at that high level, but he looked so locked in, so ready to go. That was the late game, so maybe it's the storyline that a lot of other people aren't talking about. But I watched that game and I said, that is a very, very good sign for the Denver Nuggets moving forward. So that's one big storyline. And the other big storyline is, the team that I did have going to the NBA Finals and winning the championship is the Suns losing game 1. And you say, the Clippers were a team that people were dismissing, I thought, in the series, because I know they don't have Paul George, but Ty Lue is a really good playoff coach. He's really good he's really good with adjustments. He's really good with game planning, and he's really good at also getting his team to believe they could do the impossible. Of course, we saw what they did when he was coaching the Cavs when they were down 3-1 to the Warriors, coming back to win the NBA Finals. First team to ever do that in NBA history, to win a Finals after being down 3-1. I really think that the Suns are going to have a series. I thought they were going to have a series. I thought it was going to be tricky. But I think what was great sign for them was Kawhi Leonard turned into Toronto Kawhi Leonard. He turned into that playoff terminator that we've seen him be throughout multiple times throughout his career. And if you have him being able to outplay both KD and Devin Booker, which is just not out of the realm of possibility. Like, that's the thing about him, is that he's so great that when he's right and he's healthy, he's in shape and ready to go. And I mean, in shape, I mean, like, in fit form, not necessarily that he's out of shape, but, he plays so sparingly sometimes. He's just not in the right conditioning, not in the right rhythm to play at a high level. But if he's going to play at that level, which we know he's capable of, Clippers absolutely have a shot to win that series because they're very deep. They have a lot of guys who contribute. You kind of can't take away one or two guys in that team. You got to try to take away Kawhi, but after that, anybody could hurt you. So you got a Suns team that has zero depth. Their bench is maybe the worst bench left in the postseason. Clippers are going to have a fighting chance in that series. And I think that I wasn't surprised that they won game one, but I think that a lot of other people are. And for a Suns team that's trying to kind of figure it out on the fly, this is going to be a very tough team to figure it out on the fly. I think they'll still win the series, and I think that this will be a great experience for them playing against such a good team, such a well-coached team in the first round. But man, that was a tough loss to have. So I think that the Clippers, that was a big storyline as well. And another storyline, I mean, Eastern Conference playoffs, man. I mean, we'll see how the rest of these series go, but I mean, the Celtics and the Sixers are going to walk to the second round. I mean, I think you're looking at maybe 2 sweeps. That's how unimpressive the Nets and the Hawks were in their first round. They look completely overmatched. Maybe the Hawks can figure out a game in Atlanta and get one. I didn't think the Nets would win a game in this series, and there was nothing I saw in game one to make me think that. So I think we're definitely getting Celtics and Sixers. There's no question about that. For both those teams, I think it's a matter of like wanting to make sure that you beat these teams as quickly as possible so that you don't have to deal with the other team getting more rest of you. That is where you are right now when it comes to that playoff matchup potentially in the second round. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.